Hello and welcome back to part two of this mini series where we are going to cover creating categories and security policies and then flip over and actually create a couple blueprints and then flip back, get some traffic going between those VMs that deploy, and then go in and apply that flow policy and then go back and monitor to see what happens. So let's begin. So here we are back in our lovely Prism Central interface, and we'll first start off by going to categories. So I just go down to virtual infrastructure, click categories. So by default, we have several system categories that are available to use for applications, environment, etc. Today, what we're going to use is actually our environment category. And inside of this environment category, I have basically values of dev, production, staging, etc. And you can see right now I have no associated entities. When we're done here deploying the column blueprints, you'll see that production and dev will each have one VM in it. So now let's create a security policy for flow. So we go to policies, security policies, and just click create security policy. This is where I'm just going to make a simple environment isolation policy. Create. Let's give it a name here. Separate development from production. So this is where I'll just type in env and it'll auto-populate my choices here. So I'm just going to say isolate dev from production. And right now I'm just going to click save and monitor. So if I click on this policy, right now we can see that there are 0 entities in each of these categories, right? So we're good there for now. That will change shortly. So now let's flip over to Calm and create our first blueprint. Services, Calm. So we'll just go up here to click on blueprints. And let's create a blueprint. Give it a name. Let's call this one Linux. Click proceed. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is actually create a service. So I'll click this plus sign here next to service and give this service a name. I'm just going to call this a CentOS VM. So this is the context of the blueprint. That's not really what the VM name is going to be. Cloud is Nutanix. So we know the operating system is Linux. This is where the unique name will get deployed. So I'm just going to change this to Linux, and then we're going to use some built-in COM variables that'll just enumerate the naming convention such that when you deploy multiple VMs, they don't have the same name. Give it some resources here, 2 vCPUs, and we'll do it 4 gig of memory. And this is where you can actually use some guest customization scripts. We're just going to keep it simple today. So this is where I want to clone from image service. Now this is where we're going to put that CentOS 7 Calm VM we made in the last series. So select that. Now we're going to apply that category. So I'm going to give this one an environment equals dev category. Give it a network adapter. And we do want to verify login. So let's add a new credential. Save that. And so it'll basically just do an SSH login to verify everything's up and running. So it looks like we're good here. Let's click on save. If there's any errors, it'll let us know. And it does not. If there was, there will be an exclamation point that popped up there that says, hey, it's saved, but you got some errors, and you go back and revisit. So now let's go back to the Blueprints menu and create one for Windows. Again, we'll click on Service here, give it a name. Operating system is Windows, same deal here. Some resources. And we are going to select the Windows image here. Add a network adapter. And again, we'll add a new credential. This one's for Windows, obviously. And it looks like everything checks out here. Resources stick, yep. All right, we'll click Save here. All right, now that it's saved, we're actually ready to launch this blueprint. So we just click the Launch button, give it a name, and click Create. So it'll start to run the workflow here, and we'll pop over to an Audit tab view here in a second when it pops up. And this is really the application view. So we click on Audit, and we can see that it's going to run through here and create this VM. So we'll give it a few minutes to run. Looks like we're almost done here. And when this is completed, this will actually switch to a running state. There it goes. So one thing that you may have noticed when I created this blueprint, we'll flip back over to it, is I actually did not assign a category, which is not a big deal, right? So I can go ahead and assign it here, but I don't need to redeploy that VM or this blueprint to fix the issue. I'll go ahead and update this blueprint so that it doesn't happen again. But what we can do is just flip back over to our virtual infrastructure VMs. And I can see there's that Windows VM that I just deployed. So I'll just check this box, and I go up here to Actions, and get down to Manage Categories. So these are some default categories that Calm added, but what we want to add is Environment Prod. And click Save. So easy fix, not a big deal. So let's flip back to Calm and deploy that Linux blueprint. On launch. Click Create. And it'll be the same workflow. So take it a few minutes and it'll deploy, and then we'll flip back over into the VM view of Prism Central and verify everything is as expected. Looks like we are about to be finished here. It's checking the login. And we just switched to running. So we are good here. And you can see that you can follow every step. If there was an error deploying, you can actually go in and I can pop this out and see that everything that was going on. But so, if there is an issue where it deploys, it's very easy to troubleshoot. So this audit trail is just, it's an awesome feature of Calm. All right, so now let's go back and flip over to our VM view. This time, let's just check that Linux VM. So there it is. Go to Manage Categories. And we can see that environment dev is already there, right? So very easy. So now let's launch a console on each of these VMs. So log in here real quick. So let's get some traffic going between these two systems. So let's just do a ping 10.38.13 at 157. And he was 158. So we'll do ping 38. 13 at 158. And let's just double check that. Yep, 158. All right. All right, we have traffic flowing. So now let's go back to our security policy. Now I can see that I actually have one entity in each of these categories, right? So now if I click apply on this security policy, let's see what happens. So the requests are timing out. Flip back, and then flip it back to monitor. There we go. Back in business. All right, we'll close these guys out. And that completes this part 2 of this series. So in summary, just really just shows how easy it is to manage a Nutanix environment, and also how simple it was to enable automation and microsegmentation, create a couple blueprints, deploy it. It's just that easy. That's what Nutanix is. It's simple. Thanks for watching.